If you've tried to become a reader multiple times and failed, if books feel boring compared to your phone, or if you've been told you just need to find the right book, but nothing seems to work, this video is for you. The problem isn't that you're picking boring books. The problem is that your brain has been trained to expect instant dopamine hits, and books can't compete with that yet. Hi there, I'm Anna and this is Tucker, and we hope you're having a great day. Today, I'm going to teach you how to literally become addicted to reading by retraining your brain's reward system. This is the second video in my series helping different groups of people get into reading. Last week, I talked about rebuilding your reading brain after illness or injury. And today, we're focusing on people who want to become readers but struggle because books feel slow and boring compared to screens. Over the next few weeks, I'll also be covering reading slump recovery, how to start reading classics without intimidation, and reading strategies for non-native English speakers, because we all need different strategies depending on where we're starting from. Here's the thing that nobody talks about. We are all doom scrolling. It's everyone's guilty pleasure that nobody admits to, but we all definitely do it. Your brain has been rewired for instant rewards, quick dopamine hits every few seconds from notifications, likes, swipes, and rapid-fire content changes. Books don't traditionally work that way. They build slowly toward bigger emotional payoffs. This isn't a character flaw or a lack of intelligence. Your brain has literally been trained to expect instant gratification. Social media, games, even TV shows are designed by teams of neuroscientists to trigger dopamine releases constantly. That's why when people ask for exciting book recommendations, it often doesn't work. The book could be the most thrilling story ever written. But if your dopamine system is calibrated for rewards every 30 seconds, even the best book will feel slow at first. So, how do we fix this? First, you need to work with your brain, not against it. Most people try to become readers by picking books they think they should read, or they ask for exciting book recommendations from random people online. But here's what actually works better. Start with what you already love on TV or in the movies, and then translate that into books. Your brain already has positive associations with certain types of stories. If you love crime shows, try psychological thrillers or detective novels. Marvel fan? Try fantasy or urban fantasy. Watch a lot of rom-coms? Contemporary romance. True crime podcasts? True crime books or crime fiction. Historical dramas? Historical fiction. Reality TV? Contemporary fiction with relationship drama. This works because you're not asking your brain to learn to like a completely new type of story and learn to focus on books at the same time. All you're doing is just changing the delivery method for content that you already enjoy. But even within your chosen genre, book selection matters enormously. You need books that work with your dopamine retraining process, not against it. So here's what to look for. Short chapters. And when I say short, I mean 5 to 7 pages max. You might occasionally hit a 10-page chapter, but you won't be dealing with 20 to 30-page monsters that feel endless. Here are 2 quick ways to check. First, look at the first 5 chapters and literally count the pages. Sometimes a book might have one longer opening chapter and the rest are fairly short. That's fine. Or you can flip to page 50 of any book and see what chapter you're in. If it's in chapter 5 or later, you've got a short chapter book. Aim for about 200 to 350 pages total. This feels achievable, but still substantial enough to give you that completion high when you finish. Look for fast-paced plotting, especially in the first 50 pages. Books with slow builds might be amazing literature, but they're not good for brain retraining. Books with chapter titles, instead of just numbers, Or chapters that go by dates, which is especially common in thrillers, can feel more engaging and game-like. Try different formats. Don't assume you know your preference. Physical books give tactile satisfaction, and is my personal preference. Audiobooks work great for commuting or multitasking. I also love audiobooks too. And e-readers let you adjust text size, and they have built-in dictionaries. I also love e-readers on occasion. Your best bets for short chapters and faster pacing? Mysteries and crime or thriller books. Your worst bets are generally fantasy, especially with heavy world building. But if it's a fantasy world that you already know, like if you love Star Wars, and there are tons of Star Wars books out there, that'll likely work fine because you're not learning a whole new universe from scratch. Now for the actual dopamine hacking system. Everything in our world is gamified now, and so we need to gamify reading as well. This takes persistence. It's harder to train your brain to like slower feedback loops, but you can absolutely do it. You're already on step 1. You have decided that you want to be a reader. But you have to actually commit to the process. Step 2, you need to remove all screen temptation. So turn your phone off or on silent and then throw it in a drawer, preferably in a different room, maybe even under a few things. Do the same thing with the TV remote. The goal here is to make accessing screens just inconvenient enough to deter you for 20 or 30 minutes. Step 3, set small session goals. Remember, reading is a muscle. Don't go for multi-hour sessions in the beginning. Your goal is to finish complete chapters. If you choose the right book with short chapters, this might be 2 to 4 chapters depending on your reading speed. And here's the dopamine hack. Every time you finish a chapter, your brain celebrates a small success. It gets super happy. That's a dopamine hit. Do this 2 to 4 times per session, and you'll put the book down on a high note because you've gotten dopamine from 2 places: finishing chapters and reaching your session goal. You can decide if your session goal will be based on the number of chapters or a time frame. But if it's time-based, make sure you're flexible enough with your time to be able to finish a chapter. This is key. Try to finish chapters and not stop mid-chapter. You want to close that feedback loop. It's especially good if you end on a mini cliffhanger because you'll be excited to pick it up again. As you progress through the book, all those little dopamine hits, they start to add up. The story gets going and your good feelings association with that book compounds. And because you chose an average length book, when you complete the whole book, you have a huge dopamine hit because you have accomplished your major goal, which is finishing a book. Continue until you no longer feel the urge to stop because it's boring and you don't want your phone instead. If you get toward the end of a book and you can't put it down, that's okay. Let yourself keep going. The key is to never finish on a low note. We're breaking the negative feedback loop that says reading is boring. Now, normally I tell people it's okay to DNF or not finish a book that isn't working for them. And there are still cases where that's appropriate here, but you've really got to hate it for content reasons, not slow or boring reasons. If you have harsh feelings about the characters, if there are triggers you missed in the warnings, if the content genuinely upsets you, of course, stop reading that book, put it down, and choose a new one. But if you're stopping because it feels slow or boring, I really want you to try to push through that. That is your old dopamine pattern talking. This is exactly why book selection is so vital. You need books that work with your retraining process, not against it. It's really important that you finish those first few books that you choose. Each completion reinforces that positive feedback loop. Now, here is the exciting part. This system will naturally evolve as your brain retrains itself. Eventually, you won't need these rules anymore. You'll probably know you're ready to graduate when you find yourself naturally choosing a book over a screen, when you no longer have to hide your phone from yourself, and when you no longer need to set reading sessions because sometimes you're naturally happy to read for a couple of hours because you have to find out what happens next. You might even find yourself excitedly telling family and friends about an awesome book you're in the middle of without even realizing it. That's when you can take the training wheels off and move on to longer books, longer chapters, and yes, even those exciting book recommendations from random internet strangers. And yes, I know that ironically, I am also a random internet stranger. At that point, you'll have massive book choices available to you. Fantasy with complex world building, literary fiction, those 500-page doorstoppers, your brain will be ready for all of it. One crucial timing note though, do not start your reading journey right before bed. Your brain will just learn that picking up a book equals sleepy time. Yes, reading in bed is quite lovely. I love to do it. And that's in your future too. But it's vital that right now your brain associates reading with being alert and engaged at first. When you reach the I can read just about anything stage, then you can add bedtime reading without risking all the hard work you just put in to become an awesome reader. And if you heard that gurgle, that was my tummy, and I'm really hungry right now. So, let me give you some actual book recommendations. These are all books that I've chosen for my own shelves in recent months, specifically looking for the criteria that I'm teaching you. So here's a book I actually just finished that worked perfectly for retraining my brain. It is Ward D by Frida McFadden. It has an interesting storyline, short chapters, fast pacing, and it uses timeline hopping, which actually kept my interest really well since both timelines had compelling plot lines. For other thrillers and mysteries, you could choose The Night Guest by Hildur Nutstoder. I don't know, I can't pronounce the name. Another Frida McFadden book called The Locked Door. There's also Look in the Mirror by Catherine Steadman. Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. This is a pretty new release. A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. The Manor House by Gilly Macmillan. Or if you like more of a detective style novel and you like historical fiction, you could try A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. For fantasy and supernatural stories, you could try The Coven by Harper L. Woods. Or A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. Or Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. For romance, I don't have a lot of romance on my shelves at the moment that fits this criteria, so I've just got one, but it's Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. If you want a little suspense, you could try The Island by Natasha Preston. And for a couple of light sci-fi options, you could try How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. Or Starter Villain by John Scalzi. I'm also going to include a few rule breakers here because sometimes a book is just too good to skip for minor technicalities. So for another sci-fi option, you could go with All Systems Red by Martha Wells. It's only about 200 pages, maybe even less than that. It does have 10 to 12 page chapters, but the pages are really small, as you can see, and so I don't think that would be a huge problem. You could also try A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. It is a bit longer, it is almost 400 pages, but the pacing is so good, it's really hard to put down. I had a really hard time putting this one down. And then for a historical fiction / romance option, you could also try A Lady's Guide to Scandal by Sophie Irwin. This one is also a little over 350 pages by like 5 or 10 pages, so it's really close, but it does have short chapters, and it is really an engaging read. And here's a special category. If you're a Disney adult, and no shame because I love Disney too, you could try reading the children's classics that your favorite movies are based on. Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, The Little Mermaid. You already know you love these stories, and they're shorter than most books. There's something really satisfying about reading the original version of something that you already adore. Here's what I want you to remember. Becoming a reader isn't about willpower or finding the right book. It's about retraining your brain's reward system. Your phone has had years to condition you for instant gratification. Give books a fair chance to compete. Start with what you already love. Choose books with the right structure, remove those screen temptations, and celebrate those small chapter completions. Every finished chapter is literally rewiring your brain to associate reading with positive feelings instead of boredom. This isn't going to happen overnight, but it won't take you nearly as long as you think. Most people will start feeling a shift within 2 to 3 books if they follow this system. The key is finishing those first few books, even when your old dopamine patterns tell you to quit. Next week, I'll be talking about what to do if you used to be a reader or you are a reader, but you got stuck in a slump and you can't get back into it. That's a completely different challenge with completely different sets of solutions. Have you tried becoming a reader before? What made you give up? And if you're going to try this system, what genre are you going to start with? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to help you pick your first brain retraining book. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the rest of this series. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all the support, and I will see you next time. Bye.